Hi y'all, welcome back. Well, no videos for 2 months and now we're going to put in 3 today. We've got a big ice storm that happened here in Texas. You might have heard about it. Well, we were kind of ground zero for it, and the electric cooperative is struggling to try to get power restored to tens of thousands of people, and we're one of them. We will have power restored in a few days. It'll have been out for a week by the time we have power restored, if all goes well. In the meantime, we've, if you follow the channel, you'll know that we've been doing quite a few things to try to make an event of this nature a minor inconvenience and not anything that has devastating consequences. Now, the tree's devastated and it'll be removed before long because it just ripped open and fell down on the ground. Fortunately, didn't take the power pole out with it, didn't take the rainwater storage tank for the cows watering trough out with it, and nothing fell on the solar panels that are stored over there for the extension of the solar array. The reason for this video today is generators. And that is one of the layers of power resilience that we have, because I don't trust the power grid. Not just because of ice storms that take the power out for a week at a time, over and over. We don't get a lot of snow, but we do get these bad ice storms, and they take the trees out, and the trees take the power lines out, and then it's sometimes a week before you get power back. So it's kind of like our version of a hurricane. The trees get destroyed in about the same way, and the generators come out in force in about the same way. I've got many layers of protection. We've got a generator I'm going to talk to you about. We've got a solar generator with battery storage. We have other batteries that store power that can provide power for us. And we've got a solar shed that we're about to bring online that will allow us to come completely off grid and not even worry about this in the future. But I think that you need multiple layers. Oh, and shoot, I've got a Toyota Prius. If I need to run the refrigerator and the freezer, I can run an inverter off the Prius and I can provide power to the house until the gasoline runs out, and that would be a long time. But today's video is going to be about the generator component. When you're looking at a generator, I looked at generators a couple of years ago, and whole house generators. I've installed a lot of whole house generators for clients, and you get a few choices. You can do natural gas, propane, if you're on the natural gas pipeline, propane or diesel. They all have their ups and downs, and they tend to be oversized. And by oversized, I mean they try to make it to where you can run the whole house as if nothing had happened. All the air conditioning comes on, and they tend to oversize them. The problem with oversizing them is, even when they're just idling and you don't need much power, they use a tremendous amount of fuel. If that fuel is diesel, how big is the tank of diesel that you're going to use? Because they'll run over a gallon just at idle. And, you know, if you're out of power for a week, you're talking about a lot of diesel fuel. Diesel fuel also has to be maintained so it doesn't grow biological, you know, things in it that spoil it. Natural gas pipelines can fail like they did in the ice apocalypse of 2 years ago, where there wasn't enough natural gas because of the temperatures and because of lack of preparation. We didn't, in Texas here, we didn't prepare our natural gas pipelines for that kind of temperature, because that would have cost money and we didn't want to spend it, so we paid the price. And you can do propane, but then you got a large propane tank. We're not on the natural gas pipeline, so I was looking at a whole house generator, and I quickly realized that I needed to get a smaller one that wasn't able to run everything, just because the size of a propane tank would be huge. And you can get these portable generators like this one that will run off of propane or off of gasoline. Now, the propane tank won't last a long time. They make dual fuel that can run off of both. I don't really see the point in that. When I was looking at it, I was looking at a 9,000 watt whole house generator, which is rather small. It's the smallest one that you can buy that's a built-in whole house generator. That, even with a 1,000-gallon propane tank, was not going to last a long time. And I'm not just preparing for 2 or 3 days or a week. I really want to be prepared for a grid outage that could run to months, because there are a few scenarios that might create that situation. And while we're not in a bad place to weather that kind of storm, it would be very difficult to weather it without electricity from a water and refrigeration standpoint. And those are really the big things. The most important thing you need to protect is your refrigeration. It doesn't do any good to have 200 pounds of meat in the freezer and all your frozen this and that's if it's only going to last a couple of days before it's all thawed. You have to have backup power. It doesn't take a lot. So we've talked about that in the last video that I posted earlier today, about using different layers with battery backups and things like that. But I did have a friend who bought a whole house generator that was 36,000 watts, and her 250-gallon propane tank lasted 36 hours. And if we added a 1,000-gallon propane tank, it would have cost $12,000, and she would have gotten 4 times as much out of it, as I've said. So what I decided to do was to buy this generator. This is a Champion inverter generator, and it doesn't have all the labels on it that say that, but this is a Champion inverter generator that I paid $1,100 for from Amazon, the Jungle website. And she actually was able to get one just a couple of months ago for $850. And that was quite nice, because now they're $1,300. So she just was fortunate and got in at the right time. This generator is an inverter generator. It creates a pure sine wave that will protect all your sensitive electronics. And a lot of the generators, most of the generators that you can buy, do not do that. When I chose this generator, I had to choose the fuel. This was a gasoline generator. I would love it if it was a diesel generator, because here on the farm we have a lot of diesel stored, and to have to store diesel and gasoline is inconvenient. The diesel lasts longer than the gasoline does, but we buy ethanol-free gasoline. We travel a ways to get ethanol-free gasoline, and we pay a little more, and we put a double dose of stabilizer in it. So the gasoline we're running this machine on right now was purchased in July of last year, so it's 19 months old now, and it's working fine. When we do the gasoline, we have to rotate it out. So I only had 2 5-gallon cans left of I only had 2 5-gallon cans left of that gasoline, because I had already rotated through in the car or the mower the other 40 gallons. We store 50 gallons of gasoline. Well, really 55 because I keep 5 gallons for the motorcycle around. But we store 50 gallons of gasoline for the generator. Now, this generator is a 7,000 watt generator, and that's at the very top, and it will surge to 8750. But that's at the top of what you can get an inverter generator, portable inverter generator for. You can get bigger generators, but not inverter generators, and you might lose a computer on your coffee machine or your refrigerator, or what have you. Your TV might not like it. So I got an inverter generator, so I don't have to worry about any of that. And being 7,000 watts, it's in a middle ground. At 7,000 watts, this engine is small enough that it will idle at a fairly low consumption. At 25% load, it's rated to last 10.5 hours on this 4.2 gallon fuel tank. And we've been running the devil out of it. I've been running the heat in the house with the heat pump and pumping water, and not at the same time. Turn the heat off, pump the water, turn the heat back on. Bigger generator will do both. The only reason the heat pump will work is because I put an easy start on it. You're balancing loads with this, folks. You don't want to run the heat. We're not going to be drying clothes until the power comes back on, because we've got electric clothes dryer. There's a balancing act. But the upside to that is that running it at the level that we're running it, which is probably at 75% of its capacity most of the time, it's running at about 0.6 gallons per hour, which means you can fill this thing up and you can run 7-8 hours on it. I guess it's less than 0.6. It was 0.6 this morning. We were running it really hard, but we can get about 8 hours out of it, running the heat most of the time and pumping water in between, and we got a lot of other motors around, like for the fish pond, and we got a lot of other loads. So the load on this house, when nothing else is on and the heat's turned off and all that, is around 21 kilowatt hours per day. So it's got a large parasitic load because of the koi pond and other things. We're not turning any of that off, and we're running heat, and this is still working just fine for it. So I want to show you how we've set this up. We've got 50 gallons, like I said, back there, and you see the generator here. I'm going to start it up in a minute, and then you're not going to be able to hear me. But we've got the generator here in the garage, and I'll pull the garage door down when it's operating and just leave it at this level to where the exhaust can get out, and it's a little less noisy. This one's a little quieter than most generators I've seen, but it still makes a lot of noise. And the reason that I have it here instead of out by the pole is it can be here in a hard rain and not be in the rain. And this is a 30-foot cord, and it's a 10-gauge cord, because, and a 10-gauge 4-conductor cord, because we have a 30 amp load. 7,000 watts is about 30 amps at 240 volts. In order to use this, we have an interlock. This interlock means that this 30 amp breaker that comes from the generator cannot be turned on until you turn the main feed to the grid off. So you turn the grid off, then you can slide this up, then you can turn the breaker for the generator on. And that's really important because you don't want that generator running and tied to the grid when somebody's trying to fix your wires, because you might harm them. And so that's important. The other thing that's important here, and I've got the note here, is we always have to turn off the breaker that is for the solar panels before we turn on the generator. If you have the solar panels on and the generator's running and the sun comes out, the power that solar panels, that solar array produces is going to destroy your generator. So you turn that off, you turn the grid breaker off, you turn the generator breaker on, you plug in your extension cord, and now you can power up the whole house. Before you do that, turn off any big loads, the breakers to any big loads inside the house. I turned off the breaker to both of the air conditioning units, and if I had anything else, I would do that as well. Our hot water is natural gas, is a propane, so I didn't have to worry about an electric water heater. They use 5,500 watts. So if you're heating water with a 5,500 watt element, you're going to have to do a little dance if you're using a 7,000 watt generator. Now, I'm going to start this up before I plug it in. I don't want to start this up with the loads attached, or as it comes up and it's producing 150 volts, 170 volts, you're going to be sending really bad voltage to all the things in the house that are connected to it. So you want this thing to be up and running at speed before you plug any loads to it. And you want to, it's really best if you turn it off, if you disconnect this and turn it off and then fuel it, restart it and reconnect it. If you let it run out of fuel, it's not really good for the things inside the house. Worse if you start it up with the things attached to it inside the house. So I've just refueled this. I keep a battery tender on the battery, so this battery's just fine. This unit's only a year and a half old, and in about 2.5 more years, I will probably replace the battery in a preventative way. Because it's got a pull start. I would really like to always be able to start this thing up with this. So it's going to be hard to hear for a little bit. I'm going to start it up, plug it in and get it going, and then we're going to walk away and I'll finish my thoughts on this. So, power's back on in the house. I'm also using this to charge up batteries that will get me through the night tonight, because I don't really want to run the generator at night, but I do want to run the refrigeration and a few other things, charge phones and things like that. So I do have battery systems that I will use, and those are charging right now to be ready for tonight. And so this small generator with good clean power will get, and 50 gallons of fuel will get me through a couple of weeks of no power if I'm judicious about how I use it, and I am. And so the actual generator, and I'm not going to provide you a link, just go to Amazon. I don't need to make the 5% off of every sale. Go to Amazon, or Home Depot has these also. Any of those sources, or your favorite hardware store if they can get it for you. And this is a Champion model 102500. I don't remember. It's the 7,000 watt inverter generator from Champion. You'll find it has great reviews, great people run them for years and years, and I'm really happy that I got it as my backup carbon fuel source of energy. I have most of my sources of energy are solar based, but and battery based, but having this layer is important, and I thought I'd share my thoughts with you on it. Please like the video if you got something from it, or even if you didn't. I need the likes. And subscribe to the channel. I've got another one to make today, and I'll be making more videos coming up. I've taken a pretty long hiatus, taking care of other things, but we're done with that now, and I'm going to be back to making videos for you and finishing up the solar shed. Thank you.